Hey guys, what's up? Welcome to a new video and long time no see. I know it's been a while. I just thought I'd come and show my face, as it's been a while to be honest. Anyway, this is just going to be a quick video, just showing how you can quickly transition between one camera perspective, or the character's camera perspective really, to an alternative camera perspective to to show sort of slightly different angles. I almost said the word wrong and it threw me. So, yeah, let me just give you a quick demo of what I mean. Now, when I use such a system, I think of old school games like Tomb Raider. I'll try and find a clip of what I'm on about. I'll put it either on the screen or a link somewhere. But effectively, this is quite an old school transition. So I've got to an area which is quite tight. So what it's done is it's forced the perspective of the character into this sort of top-down view for this section of the game, and then at the end of the section it transitions back and gives the character the full control again, how they were expecting to sort of back to the normal control system, let's say. And every time that we walk into this area, it's going to force this perspective or this view, this angle, whatever you want to refer to it as, because it's almost a feature of this particular area in the game, and that's quite a unique thing that you can do. Now, obviously, this doesn't have to be specifically like this. You could trigger it to say, hey, come and look over here. There's an item for you to grab. You know, it might be indicating a where to go. You could run into it and be like, hey, you might want to look over there. There's some stuff. Just to make sure your character doesn't miss certain aspects of the game. So this is quite powerful. It can be used, and it's very, very easy to set up. A couple of minutes and we'll have this set up. My goal is to keep this under 10 minutes so I don't keep talking forever like I always did, but we'll see what happens. So effectively what we've got is we've got a camera in the sky and then a trigger volume. So what we'll do is we'll come and match this over here. Now, let me just delete the existing blueprint. Don't look at that. You can't see that. That doesn't exist. So that was what was making that work. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to sort of set it up on the other side over here. So what I'll do is I'll just quickly delete this one and this one, just so then we've got a clean slate and we're doing it together. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here, just sort of have to move as much. Come to the quick add menu and we're going to look for a trigger volume. Trigger volume, so that drops in the world just like that. What I'm going to do is position it a little bit more central, bring it up slightly. I'm going to bring it up a little bit more to be fair. And then I'm just going to scale this so that's back through the floor. Let's move over here. Make this a little bit wider so it's in the wall, and then make it a lot longer. Just so we're just on the edge of that wall. There we go, lovely. And then I probably am going to make it a little bit wider and bring it back, just to make sure that the character's always going to be in contact with it if they decide to walk down this, let's say, corridor. Wonderful. So there is a trigger volume set up, just waiting for the character to walk into that. I'll make it a bit taller and bring it up, sort of like, where's the bottom? Okay, that'll do for me. I don't want to mess around with it too much. I've got a time limit. Anyway, the next thing, we want to add a camera which we're going to transition to. You can use a cinema camera if you want to make it all flashy and black bars and stuff like that. That's completely up to you, but effectively, we just need a camera. So we're going to go back to the quick add menu, and I'm just going to select a camera actor. It's very simple. It's the same camera which is following the player, so the transition or the difference between view styles is minimal. But again, if you want cinematics, you can do that, and I did that without telling you. I'm so sorry. So we've got the camera in the world. If you want to right click on it and do pilot, what that'll allow you to do is holding the right mouse button, you can pivot around. And if you hold W, A, S, and D, well, you don't have to hold them, but if you press W, A, S, and D, you can move around almost like you're flying, which is neat because you can use this then to sort of put the camera in the correct position. And if you scroll the mouse wheel downwards, you can change the speed of what it moves, so you can fine tune it. Or obviously you can type in a location in the bottom right hand corner. So for me, that is fine. I'm going to just set that up. I don't want to spend too much time, but you can tweak that as you want. So then what you want to do up at the top, if you're in 5.6, it's going to be up here at the top. If you're not, and if you're in a lower in a lower version of Unreal, it's probably somewhere around here. There's a little camera icon with an eject button. Just click eject and you leave the camera where you moved it to, and that's that pretty much. So keep the camera selected. That's going to be important for this next step. Keep the camera selected, and then what we're going to do is we're going to go over to the blueprints menu and we're going to open up the level blueprint. So the reason we're going to use level blueprint is because by having things selected in the world, you can create references to them in here directly, and it's just convenient. So if I right click now, you will see there are a couple of extra options up at the top in the context menu, and one of them is create a reference to the camera. Now this is not necessarily a variable, but it is a direct reference to the physical camera in the level. So what we can do with that is we can say we want to switch to this. Now there's a few other things that we need. We also want that trigger volume because we need to get sort of the event for when we do interact with this, overlap it or walk into it, if you will. So select the trigger volume, go back to your level blueprint, right click, and we're going to do an add event for the trigger volume. We want collision, and we want to sort of do an event when we get an actor begin overlap. So when we start to overlap, we want to sort of trigger this event. So select that. And just while we've got that trigger volume selected, let's also add another collision event for the end overlap. So we're going to need to end as well as begin. Wonderful. So now, a couple of things you could do. I'm going to keep it sweet and simple because it's going to be completely up to your game. But obviously, we want to check who has overlapped this. Now, if you are the only player character, if you're the only character type in the game, which what I mean is your player character, when you go to the blueprint, you are a class of character up at the top right. Whereas sort of some enemies and other bits and pieces may be a pawn class. For example, a cheetah, or I don't know why I've picked that, like a four-legged animal, a mammal, something like that. You're not going to use a character class, you're going to use a pawn class just because it doesn't have the humanoid skeleton. Anyway, so what you can do is you could check, you could do a cast, let's have a look, cast to character, which would mean it has to be a humanoid character type. That's a good way of checking. You could cast directly to your third person character if you are definitely going to be that character, and plug that in. Effectively, we're going to cast to it in some way of saying if this cast is successful, it is the player character. If it fails, then we don't want to do anything. Or you can leave it blank, but this is risky because if anything collides with this trigger volume, some unexpected stuff might happen. Anyway, what we want to do is we want to get the player controller. Now, there are other ways of getting the controller from the overlap, but I want to keep this as simple as possible. So from the controller, what we want to do is we want to view target. Type that in. You should find set view target with blend. Connect this to your sort of trigger, your event overlap. And what we're saying is this controller is our target. This is what we want to change the camera of. And what do we want to change the camera to? And that's going to be the new view target. So let's select the new camera. And then the only thing that we need to check now is what blend time do you want? So in my example at the beginning, I had a 1 second blend time, which sort of give you a nice sweeping transition, which is it doesn't really shock your player. It doesn't really like, oh my god, what's happening? What's just changed? But depending on how you lead up to a scenario, depending on the scenario entirely, to be honest, you may want to change the blend time. If your blend time is more than half a second to 1 second, if it's like 2 to 3 seconds, like a really smooth transition, you're probably going to want to disable movement on your player. You don't want them moving around whilst the camera is still transitioning. And I've got something else to say about movement, but I'll get to that in just a sec. What we may as well do before we move on is just set up the end overlap, which is in some respects the reverse. So we want to trigger this. Again, do your check. Make sure you're only going to end when the expected character ends overlap and not just anything. The target is going to be the controller. And what's our new view target? Well, it's going to be the actor, the actual actor which has overlapped the box, which is you. It should be you. You could get player character. That'll also do the same. But if you don't want to make it too hard coded, then forget about that. Let's have a quick test of this. Let's see what happens. So we'll press play, and we're going to run over to this side. And because I set the blend time to 0, I should get that instant snap straight to a top view. And then we'll run over here just like this. Get to the end of the corridor, and it snaps back. Now, what we can do is we can nip back in and we can change this transition time, this blend time, to 1 second, and we'll just see what the difference is. And then I'll talk about how the controls may be something to consider. So we'll nip over and see that transition time was quite long. Now, if I run back and if I hold forward whilst it's transitioning, you can see my character is still moving whilst the camera's changing perspective, let's say. You may want to stop that depending. If it's a dangerous environment, you might not want your player to be able to move. Depending on where your camera is going as well, the other thing to consider is if your camera is going somewhere where the player's character isn't visible, you don't want them to just press keys on the keyboard and then when you fly back the character's died or injured themselves or got themselves stuck in some position because they didn't realise that they had the ability to move whilst this was happening. So just things to consider. Yes, actually, one other thing which I failed to tell you. I briefly mentioned about the controls. Now, here you might expect me to be pressing like the right arrow key or the D key, but I'm not. I'm pressing W. So the controls which your character had before the sort of transition still apply now. So if I press S, I actually run back, and if I press A, I do still go to the left, and if I press D, I still go to the right. Now, your character may be able to, so your player may be able to suss these controls out, but depending on what you're expecting your player to do whilst in this different perspective, may make you consider how your player is controlled. So you might want to switch to a slightly different input system when in a different perspective. Just things to consider. Or you could set up the camera so it looks this way. So as I'm looking at this corridor, the camera is also looking down the corridor with me, which then the key bindings are pretty much the same. It's just the perspective change, but this sort of top-down view is quite different. So how the keys operate may be something you want to consider. Another quick thing, so at the moment the camera's all the way up there. I'm going to right click, I'm going to pilot it, and let's say I want the player to be aware of this area over here. So I'm going to unpilot that, and where did I just put that? I've just put that over there. So what I should do is I am going to get this and make it a hell of a lot smaller. Drag this over to this corner, just like that. And then I'm going to hit play. So now what's going to happen is I'm going to run over here. I'm going to come and check this out. Alright, there's some gold, some treasure down there. That's really cool. I'm going to run up here and boom. Just so you know, there's an area over there. And what you might want is you might want after 10 seconds, instead of the overlap event to trigger it, after 10 seconds you might want to fly back. And then now my character knows, oh, maybe I should go and check that side as well. So this is how this can be useful, especially if depending on the type of game that you're playing. You might want to sort of set it up as a way of showing people the way, or I'm really struggling with this quest, where's the next area? And you might want to use the camera to sort of show your player the way. So what I might do is on here we'll get player character just like that as a new target. and we will set up a delay. I'm just going to show you this as a demo, but this is probably not the most ideal way to do this. So after 10 seconds, we're going to switch back. So we will run over here. Let's look for some loot. Camera transitions, you might want to have a look over here. 10 seconds is actually a really long time. I should have set this to 2 or 3 seconds. But nonetheless, after 10 seconds, we then get full control of our character back. So then now I know I should go and look over there. Things like that. Things to consider. To be honest, that's pretty much it. I don't know if I've said this already, but I might just leave like a short or a video somewhere just to sort of show a perspective. I've got Tomb Raider in my mind. I used to play a lot of that on PlayStation 1. And thinking about it, granted that was a long time ago, I remember Tomb Raider using a lot of this technique where it would change the perspective based on the size of the room that you're in. If you're in a large cave, it might switch to a side view or like an overhead view to give you more freedom. And that's what I really see things like this. This is really neat just for a lot of things, but with it being so simple, it's something that you should consider using. So that's it from me. It's good to see you all, and thanks for watching to the end if you've made it this far. All the regular links, Discord channel, and other stuff are down below. If you like this video, please consider giving me a thumbs up. And if not, that's fine too. Give me a dislike, but please leave a comment and let me know why. And I'll see you in another one, I guess. So, thank you, and see you later.